Hi guys! Last weekend I started painting a small area in the saloon here aboard Athena. I'm not gonna do a lot of work aboard the boat today because today's Friday and I've got one of those pesky 9-to-5 jobs to take care of. But before I head off to my day job, there's one small job to take care of here aboard Athena. It's something I've been very much looking forward to over the last week, and I thought I'd bring you guys along. The thing I've been looking forward to is to remove the masking tape. Of course, you don't want to leave that stuff on there for any longer than you have to, and I applied the final coat of paint last night, so let's get to peeling. And now for the exciting part, to see if I've got a nice clean line between the white painted plywood and this varnished teak. That looks perfectly okay to me, and I can clean this up a little bit more later today with a razor blade. When viewed at a distance, it looks perfect, but up close, there are a few flaws, so I'll have to figure out what to do about those. But for now, I need to head off to my day job, so I'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning here back aboard Athena. Good morning, guys. Today is Saturday, and I was planning on installing the new port lights today, but sadly that is not going to happen. I'll get back to why in a few seconds. The first thing I want to do is to get my heater going. It's around 7 degrees Celsius outside this morning, and that's not really all that cold. But it's still a lot more comfortable with the heater on here inside the boat. I picked up this heater to heat the boat on the trip home from Scotland. We didn't use it a lot on that trip, but since then it's been very useful. And once this gets going, it puts out a ton of heat. And a big thank you to Sam and Robin who brought me this paraffin, and in fact a bunch of it while Athena was still in Kirkcudbright. The boat will be nice and toasty in no time. A little earlier in this video you guys saw me remove the masking tape from the trim pieces, and overall I gotta say I'm very satisfied with the look. I like the contrast between the varnished teak and the white painted plywood. And when viewed from a distance, like I mentioned, it looks perfect, but when we get up a little bit closer, well, there are some issues, and let's take a look at two of those problems. Right here I had the paint run on me, and I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it'll certainly annoy me to look at that, so I'll have to fix it. And over here some water got in and ruined the finish, so I'll have to fix this also. I was in a bit of a hurry yesterday when I removed the masking tape, so I didn't see those two flaws until it was too late. Luckily it's an easy fix. It's just a matter of masking off the teak trim, and then it's just a matter of sanding flush the area to remove those mistakes. Ta-da! Then it's just a matter of applying a fresh coat of paint, but I'll hold off on doing that till the end of the day. Yesterday afternoon I swung by the boat and I put in the first of the new port lights, and that's the one you see right here behind me, and I gotta say it looks pretty awesome. And there's definitely a stark contrast between the old hazed over and cracked port lights and this one with its nice and clear toughened glass. This is the new port light. It's nice and clear and you can enjoy the view of that wonderful tarp. This, on the other hand, is one of the old port lights. Here you can enjoy a view of cracks and hazed over perspex. Unfortunately, it turns out that the screws that are provided with the port lights are just a little bit too long. This is one of the original ones and this is one of the new ones. So the port lights aren't pressed firmly against the cabin top, but a bag of slightly shorter screws is on its way. I'll hold off on installing the rest of the port lights until the screws arrive. Besides, this weekend it's awfully windy and rainy, and I'm just better off waiting for slightly better weather. Most annoyingly, two of those slightly too long screws are now stuck up here, and that's this one and this one. I've tried everything to get them out, and as you can see there's not really a lot here to grab onto on the inside part here, and whenever I turn the outside part this just turns with it. My final idea is to cut a slit in this inside part here and then use a screwdriver to secure this while I turn the outside part, and to cut that slit I'll use my knockoff Dremel tool. That should do nicely. I can't reach the inside part and the outside part at the same time by myself, and rather than trying to wedge something into that slit and stuff like that, I've just decided to ask one of the fellow liveaboards in the marina to lend a hand.
Ja. Yep, den er der. Kører bare.
Ta-da! We managed to remove both of them. I am so glad I got those out of there without any kind of serious issues, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I've used a non-setting sealant. This is the stuff I've used to seal that new port light with. This is a butyl-based non-setting sealant, and this stuff has absolutely no adhesive properties. You guys know I love butyl tape. That stuff is awesome for bedding deck hardware. But for the port lights, I thought I'd give this stuff a try. I've never tried using this stuff before personally, but I've heard good things. But I'll get back to this in the video where I put in the rest of the new port lights. Let's move on to a different topic. In the last video I told you that I decided to keep the sink. And now that I've made that decision, why don't we go ahead and cut a hole for it? And while we're at it, maybe cut a hole for the faucet I've picked out. The easiest way to do this is simply just to flip the sink upside down and line it up on the countertop. Okay, I think I've got the sink lined up the way I want it to, and I've just checked to make absolutely sure that I'm not going to saw into any of these supports for the countertop. So let's go ahead and draw a circle around this. It's of course very important not to cut the hole to this size. That would be kind of annoying. Instead, the actual hole I'm going to cut is going to be about 1 centimeter smaller on each side, but I'm just going to check every side of the sink because I know the finish on this is, well, so and so. So I'm going to place some marks 1 centimeter from the line I drew earlier. Now that I know the size of the hole to cut, it's just a matter of doing it. Okay, fingers crossed. Yeah, I'd say that looks okay. So the next step is to drill a hole for the faucet. This is not a super fancy designer faucet. This is just a reasonably priced, good quality faucet, and yeah, I think it looks okay. I'm going to drill the hole for the faucet somewhere around here because that seems to be the only way it can actually reach both sinks. I know that is off-center compared to the locker up here, but well, the sink is also kind of off-center, so I think that'll look okay. And for once it turns out I've got a hole saw in the correct size. That's kind of like winning the lottery around here. So let's figure out exactly where to drill that hole. So this will center up the faucet compared to the two sinks. Whoop. Jesus, that was hot. And there we go. I think that looks pretty good, but of course we're not done yet. Like I mentioned in the last video, because of this annoying flaw here, I've decided to flush mount the sink into this piece of plywood here and then cover the flange or the lip of the sink with a piece of compact laminate. The compact laminate is either going to be 9 or 12 millimeters thick. I haven't quite decided yet. Nor have I decided yet how far I want this compact laminate to extend out. So something like this maybe, or all the way out over the sink like this. But yeah, I'll figure that out later. For now, I just want to get the sink flush mount into this piece of plywood. As for how much material to remove, well, I think I'm just gonna go with the thickness of the sink plus 1 extra millimeter just to leave room for some sealant in there. The good thing about this is that once the compact laminate is on top, nobody's ever gonna see this, so if I happen to stray from the line, it's perfectly okay. Here we go. Yep, it's in there. It might be kind of difficult to see now because the galley is chock full of crap, but I think once I'm done, it's gonna look pretty dang spiffy. I've About halfway through with the router, I realized, hey, wait a minute, I also want to treat the plywood with some penetrating epoxy, and that's probably also going to take up a little bit of room. So I might have to remove a little bit more material at a later date, but I'm not going to mount the sink until, well, that's almost the last thing I'm going to do. Now, I'm just about to head back to Reflex to take Jurkul for a walk, but before I do that, there's one more thing I want to show you. If you look on the inside of the hull here, you can see some condensation, and that is the only downside to using the heater I showed you a little earlier. It does cause a fair bit of condensation. And that condensation is why I want to get the Reflex stove hooked up as soon as possible. Like I said, I'm going to head back to Reflex and take Jurkul for a walk, but I'll see you guys here back aboard Athena bright and early tomorrow morning. For the second and final time in this video, good morning guys. I made a rough edit of this video last night and it turns out I'm already pushing 11 minutes. So this last part of the video, it's gonna be kinda short. Earlier this week, I swung by Reflex and picked up a bunch of nice, shiny stainless steel. I now have everything I need to install my Reflex stove, but I want to finish painting the port side of the saloon before hooking up the stove, because I don't want to accidentally spill paint all over my brand new Reflex stove. That would kind of suck. Of course, before I can paint the galley, I need to finish varnishing all of the teak trim. I've got 2 coats on there now, so in about a week or maybe 2 weeks, I should be able to start painting the galley. Tanya at Reflex was kind enough to cut a hole in the day tank that matches my super fancy tank level monitor. I also picked up some copper tubes, some fuel hose and a small diesel pump. But how am I going to hook all of this up to the main diesel tank? Well, for that I'll use this little guy. This will allow you to add a connection to your tank, and you don't even need an access hatch to do it. It's pretty clever. There's a link in the description for a video that shows you how to install this, and I've also included a link for the webshop where I purchased this, but that is a webshop here in Denmark. So if you know of a similar product to this where you're located, just go ahead and share a link to that down in the comments. I'm sure it's going to come in useful to someone. This doohickey has a 3/8" thread on the inside here, so that means it's easy for me to add a compression fitting. And I can then use a piece of copper tube to put in here and then extend into the tank. And then on the outside, it's got 1/2" thread. So that means it's easy for me to add a hose barb onto here. And then I can connect the fuel hose to this. I'll get back to hooking up the Reflex stove in a future video. And this time around, I think I'll do it in just one single video instead of a 10-part series like when I installed the Reflex stove aboard Reflex. I've been droning on for far too long already, but before ending this video, there's one last thing I want to mention. I've gotten a few comments and messages asking why I haven't included any moisture meter readings from the hull lately. And, well, sadly it's just because this meter is apparently quite heavily influenced by temperature. So much in fact that areas that only a month ago were 50 on the comparative scale are now around 5. And areas that were maxed out are now around 60. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense for me to show you those readings because I don't think they're comparable. And that is a shame because I was hoping I could track the progress of the hull drying out over the winter, but yeah, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Okay guys, that is going to be it for this video. I'll see you here back aboard Athena next weekend. See you! Jurkul and I hope you've enjoyed this video. For more videos like it, click subscribe. Please consider leaving a comment and a thumbs up. It really helps me a lot and I appreciate your support very much. If you're new to the channel, please check out the introduction playlist. If you want to watch every single video I've ever published, check out the playlist named All Videos. It contains every single video listed in chronological order.